Joining us, as he does each week, is Paul Rieckhoff, now founder of Independent Americans, Veterans of America, host of the Independent Americans podcast. What do you make of this? The active duty military in our own country at the border, is there a legal role, do you think?
There is a legal role, but it's going to be more limited because they're federal troops. They can't actually do law enforcement unless
they can help.
They can help, and they can do a lot of what the National Guard troops have already been doing: logistics, data, transportation. I think it's significant because, number one, it's a show of force. When you bring active duty troops down there, we don't know which units it's going to be. You know, that is, it seems like an escalation, like a bigger hammer that you're bringing down to address this problem. But I think it's also extremely political. I think it's overtly political. I think it's kind of like window dressing to make it look like you're being much stronger on the border. But at the end of the day, is 1,500 additional active duty troops, you know, when we've already got 2,500 National Guard troops down there for a year, is going to make a ton of difference? Not really. It'll make a difference politically. I think this is about Trump keeping a campaign promise, giving the base what they want. And there's also reporting there could be more. It could be 10,000, could be 15,000. But right now, I think it's very much a first couple of days political move to keep a campaign promise.
And in the grand scheme of things, with all the other announcements Trump has made, maybe not the most important thing that he said so far, or tried to do so far, because he has taken a lot of actions we were talking about earlier on immigration. You and I have spoken a lot about Pete Hegseth, who's still not confirmed as the next defense secretary, but the plan still seems to be to get a vote and have him confirmed by the end of this week. Despite this, we'll put it up from the New York Times, Hegseth's ex-sister-in-law telling senators that he was, quote, abusive to his second wife. Now, let me go through this a little bit. There's a woman once married to the brother Pete Hegseth, submitted a sworn statement to the Senate, and this could be a late-hour complication to his confirmation. His lawyer has denied her account. Apparently, she's done some interviews, the ex-wife saying that there was no abuse. But the sister-in-law says there was, and it's a sworn statement, it's a sworn affidavit. Again, he's still on track, though, according to John Thune, the new majority leader, to be confirmed by the end of the week. Do you think this slows it down?
I think it should, and I think it will. You know, Hegseth's argument has been none of these are out in the open. They're all anonymous, with the exception of the email from his mother that we all saw. But this has got someone's name on it. It's a sworn affidavit. It's his former sister-in-law. And I think at a minimum, it should slow things down because it looks like she hadn't been questioned by the FBI. It looks like his ex-wives hadn't been questioned by the FBI. And I think there's a bigger danger here. Thune could speed it forward, and Hegseth might get the votes. But what happens if we've got a defense secretary a month or two from now and more stuff comes out? That's going to be a lot more complicated politically and endanger our national security in a much more profound way. So I see no downside, if we're talking about our national defense and not politics, to slowing it down, being more thorough, and giving senators and the public time to vet maybe the most significant nomination in the cabinet.
I think, to finish the point on this, the point you're making about whether it's anonymous or not was the one that Congressman Hirono from Hawaii was getting to. Let's play that clip.
Yeah.
This is not an anonymous sphere. There's a name attached to the statements that this person observed him very drunk, and then specific instances of drunkenness and even wearing a uniform while drunk. So she says, in her view, he's not fit to serve as Secretary of Defense. Now, all the Democrats on the committee agree with that, and we all voted against him. It truly is up to the Republicans.
Now, even if all of what she said is true, again, the numbers are there. So if Senator Joni Ernst, and looked like at his confirmation hearing, this changes her mind or someone like her's mind, it won't really, quote-unquote, matter in terms of confidence.
Well, the numbers were there yesterday, and I've said all along that I think a lot of senators are keeping their powder dry here up until the very last minute. Murkowski hasn't committed. Collins hasn't committed. I think that someone like Ernst could always change her vote if something else comes out. So the Democrats want to create more time so we can go more deeply into Hegseth's background, character, in addition to the drinking allegations and other things that are, I think, legitimate issues to bring forward. And the Republicans want to speed it through. But I think if we're really talking in a bipartisan way, in an independent way that puts our national security first, why rush it? Why rush it? Why not let the FBI do their job? Why not find out all we can and make sure we don't get a SecDef who's compromised?
All right, let me talk to you about one other topic. It's one you've been very involved in, and that's Ukraine. President Trump today was out, on social media anyway, threatening tariffs against Putin if he doesn't end the war, and then said this, saying essentially he should cut a deal. Here's the president.
He should make a deal. I think he's destroying Russia by not making a deal. I think Russia's going to be in big trouble. You take a look at their economy, you take a look at the inflation in Russia. So I would hope, I got along with him great, and, I would hope he wants to make a deal.
All right, Trump and Ukraine. What's next?
I think Trump's coming around. It kind of sounds like he's more deeply understanding what's happening here. Maybe he's listening to the world. Maybe he's looking at polls. But he's really changed the target from Zelensky to Putin. And now he's putting pressure on Putin. And if he can do that, I think that would be a victory for the world and for Ukraine and for him politically. So maybe he's altered his position, but the tone and the focus of his fury is dramatically shifted.
Depends what the deal is, though, right? In terms of.
But even just saying Putin should take a deal, a couple weeks ago he was saying Ukraine should take a deal. So he's flipped it completely into the other camp, and I think that's very significant for the way the entire world feels the pressure of Trump and all of our allies.
Right, like
it looks more like he's now with NATO instead of being with Putin.
Because then you get into how much land potentially would Ukraine have to give up, and where would the line?
He's also making the argument too. He's saying, "Hey, Putin's got a weak economy. He should come to the table." He's really putting more pressure on Putin, which is different from where we were just a couple of days ago.
It is different sometimes when you're sitting behind the desk versus campaigning, even for President Trump. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
As always.